Hi, everybody. Today we are celebrating Jerusalem Day, which marks the reunification of the capital of Israel in 1967. But the history of Jerusalem and the connection of the Jewish people to their homeland began thousands of years ago here in the capital of Israel, in Jerusalem, at the city of David, where it all started. So join us today for a very special tour. We're going to give you an inside look of this incredible historic place, and you'll be able to ask questions in the comments. So yalla, let's get started. Hi, good morning.
Hello, Tamar, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Welcome back home to Jerusalem.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the city of David. Hello.
Thank you. So we are very lucky to have with us here today, Jamie, an Israeli tour guide who's going to give us an inside view of this fascinating place. So Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are standing right now?
So this is actually a phenomena. The story of biblical Jerusalem, or Jerusalem itself, goes back 3,800 years ago. We're talking the periods of First Temple period, Second Temple period, thousands of years ago. And the phenomena we'll show you today that is off limit, close to the public, still being revealed, still being researched, is the ancient 2,000-year-old pilgrimage road where all Jews used to gather here in Jerusalem during the feasts, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, Tabernacles, and ascend up to the temple, the ascent. It all begins in the year 2004. What happens over here? Come with me, Tamar, right to this area, and I'd like you to look at this stone cliff right above our heads. I'd say 3-4 meters under the peak of this stone cliff, round about the height of this beam we see over here, there was a modern road, an asphalt road that was paved over here, I'd say 70, 80 years ago. Underneath that road in 2004, there was a sewage pipe that burst. Israel Antiquities Authority had to join the team that dug over here to fix it. The tractors arrive to this road. They start peeling off the layers of the asphalt, and scraping noises started to appear. And all of a sudden, these steps, these man-made steps, were found.
Is this something that's normal in this area?
Well, in Jerusalem and the area of the holy sites, the old city, and biblical Jerusalem, yes, it is. And that's why Israel Antiquities Authority archaeologists had to join the excavation while fixing over here. So they weren't surprised when they started revealing man-made carved stones, but that hit our curiosity. So we ran, we got a permit, we started revealing the 2,000-year-old Shiloach pool, known in English as the pool of Siloam.
Okay. Who is Siloam?
So, in English it's Siloam, in Hebrew Shiloach, meaning the water was sent. The water was sent where?
Right.
Here. Hence, 2,000 years ago, a Judean Roman tyrant by the name of Herods, Horus, building the Temple Mount and renovating the Second Temple, making it the most glorified temple in the East, had to build a ritual bath, I'd say, a facility that all comers to Jerusalem could bathe in that pool, a mikveh. And in order for that to happen, he's got to build something huge.
Right.
So when we started excavating over here, what do we find? We find 20%, or we reveal 20% of this 2,000-year-old Shiloach pool. Wait, does that ring a bell, Tamar? Of course it does, and I'll tell you from where. From ancient Jewish accounts, like the Mishnah. We learn that in the Chag of Sukkot, the tabernacles, the high priest used to walk down from the temple, quote, to the Shiloach pool, take a golden vessel, collect water, and walk back up to the temple. And that was the biggest parade. And people were in joy, ecstatic from that celebration, Simchat Beit HaShoeva. It began here. The big question is, from the pool, how did they ascend? Where did they ascend from? Here. And that is what we want to show you today. I'll just mark and tell you that this area, this strip you're seeing over here, is less than 20% of the entire Shiloach pool that continues.
Pretty massive.
It's huge. It's 50 by 50 meters, 2 Olympic-sized pools right under this garden over here. It's still hiding. I'd like to show you the challenges that we go through during the excavations in an urban area where people live. How do you reveal? How do you dig?
Right.
And what do we find and why? This is a phenomenon, the flag project of Israel Antiquities Authority. I am super excited.
I'm really excited too.
We'll start walking to this area and you will see something incredible. What's incredible? The water. What filled up the pool? So right down over here, have a look. Can you see running water?
Oh my God.
That is the Gihon spring water that begins roughly 400 meters. It gushes. Gihon in Hebrew, in English, means gusher. So there's only one spring in Jerusalem, natural spring. It's called Gihon. And a tunnel diverting the water to here, known as Hezekiah's tunnel, would have filled this pool. So we diverted the water now to the Kidron Valley behind me, so this area doesn't flood. But in years to come, hopefully, we will divert the water back into the pool and people will be able to experience and see what it would have looked like thousands of years ago.
So just to understand, you dig and you dig and you dig and then you hit water? Is that how it kind of came about?
So we knew that the water would come out from here somewhere, but we couldn't reveal the continuation of Hezekiah's tunnel or the aqueduct, knowing that we have a road above our heads, knowing that we have people living over here. It's an urban area. But once you can get the permit and once it goes through Israel Antiquities Authority's approval, we can start digging over here and revealing it. So this water is actually natural water coming from the spring through an aqueduct, man-made aqueduct, that would have filled this pool. Continuing where we are over here, I'd like to show you something very interesting. Look how long this strip is. We're talking 150 feet, more or less. It's incredible because in meters, it is 50 meters long. And again, underground penetrating radar scans that we took over here show it continues that way to the west, another 50 meters. So imagine a huge facility, a huge pool, everyone bathing over here, gathering over here.
How many people would you estimate?
So it's not an estimation, it's what the accounts tell us, that hundreds of thousands came here every festival, Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot, to begin the ascent, the song of ascent, Shir LaMa'alot. This is where they would have sang it and ascend up to Jerusalem, to the temple. Why is that so important? Because the accounts tell us hundreds of thousands. Two main reasons. One, the phenomena King Herod built, the Temple Mount, and the second temple renovation. The accounts tell us that millions came here every year to see that. And there's a reason why. Because back in those days, under the Roman era, we know that other nations had multiple temples. How many temples did the Jews have? Only one. So all the energy, money, and effort went towards this project, and from here they would have walked up to see that phenomena. What we have over here is actually a drawing showing us what the pool would have looked like.
Wow.
So this dark blue strip you're seeing over here is what we've revealed up until today, and this is where we stood, and we walked this way right over to here. So in the drawing you can actually see a piazza or a plaza over here, right? When people would have come out the pool and start walking up. How do we know that this was that long as we draw it over here? Tamar, look at this. It's right over there.
Oh my God.
So all these huge flagstones, 2,000-year-old flagstones we're standing on now, were preserved for thousands of years, and it's been revealed to the public.
So I have a question. If you're talking about like millions of people coming here, how did the, I guess, municipalities in those days, or whatever you would call them, safely facilitate their passage to this pool?
So that's a challenge, and obviously you would have had guards, and the accounts actually tell us that even though hundreds of thousands came here every celebration, every feast, every Chag, every human being would always find a place to stay in, and it was never tight, because we're talking about the center of the Jewish world. We're talking about the capital of the Jewish world. You had many hotels over here, many houses, and people would have opened their houses to the multitudes, feeding them, helping them. Yeah, you might have paid a few shekels here and there, but the accounts tell us that it was very comfortable to the people because there was a lot of hospitality over
here. Like an Airbnb, a cheap Airbnb.
Well, yes, sort of. You bet, because the cause was the temple. And if it's holy, you've got to be holy. while welcoming people to Jerusalem and being a part of that project.
Incredible.
I'd like to tell you one of the most incredible stories that took place over here while excavating. Can you see the grill behind you? Right over here.
There.
That is a drainage system. Why is that amazing? Because while excavating here in 2004, archaeologists Professor Ronnie Reich and Eli Shukrun from Israel Antiquities Authority found this round manhole.
Wow.
Can you see these holes over here?
Yeah.
This is what drained rainwater into a drainage system.
This is like a sewer.
Yes, exactly. It has nothing to do with the aqueduct, with the clean water that would have filled the pool. They realize there's a drainage system round about this area. They find this drainage system. They jump in, and it takes them north. They start crawling on their bellies 600 meters up north, and they exit at the western wall. And while they were crawling on their bellies, they saw from bottom to top in the drainage system a few other manholes that indicated to them that there's a road, a proper promenade, if you'd like, a Champs-Élysées or a Fifth Avenue of Jerusalem connecting the pool to the temple, the ascent. Why is that important? Because that's when we realized, oh my word, we have a road above our heads, above the drainage system. Let's reveal it. Let's find it. But come with me.
So this is the original road that you guys found?
I know why you're surprised, because they look completely new, hardly worn out.
Totally.
There's a reason, and I'm going to touch that reason, which is incredible, and you'll be amazed when you see what I have to show you. I'll just tell you very quickly that the fact that many houses were built here in the last 100 years, and unlike America, for instance, we don't have eminent domain. When a governor or a city, a state, can tell the inhabitants, please move out of your house. We have all sorts of national interests over here. We don't have that. So we can't reveal the road, the 2,000-year-old avenue or pilgrimage road, because we have modern houses covering it. So what do? Tamar. Necessity is mother of innovation. Israel, known as a high-tech nation, when we have a challenge, we have to
be creative.
You bet. So the city of David, along with Israel Antiquities Authority, what did they do? They found, or they invented, a new patent. And that patent is how to dig under houses and under the modern road without anything collapsing.
Wow.
No one wanted to do it.
So nobody's being vacated from their homes. Nobody has to leave.
No way. And that is something that we, the city of David, won a prize, worldwide prize, first place. This is like the Oscar of the tunneling. And we, the city of David, won that reward roughly 8 months ago in Norway.
Wow.
Exciting. So what did we do? Come with me. To your right over here, you'll actually see an original 2,000-year-old first shop coming out of the pool. And this is the beginning of the Fifth Avenue. Location, location, location.
Location, location,
Prada, Gucci, Armani if you'd like. But what you're seeing over here, the fruit, the vegetables, the souvenirs, the sacrifices, the money changers, everything is based on what? On the archaeological excavation, the findings, the artifacts. And we're able more or less to understand what people saw, what people bought, what people sold worldwide coming over here.
So in this case, what are some of the artifacts you found to point to the fact that it was a store?
So many weights, and we know that you had the agronomus. The agronomus was the official from the municipality. His role was to make sure that the weights are right and no monkey business is going on over here. We find a lot of organic material and peels that were preserved. Hence, we can actually know what people sold over here. Grain, fruit, vegetables. Obviously, linen would not have survived this area or 2,000 years. But we do know that people did buy souvenirs coming here worldwide, wanting to bring back to their family, wherever they came from, souvenirs from Jerusalem.
Like any other market around the world today.
You bet. You had restaurants over here, and we know that because we find, and this is incredible, we find thousands of bones, animal bones. Can you guess what, you know what? Can you guess what animal bones we don't find?
Pig.
Yes.
Okay, that I understood.
So pork was not eaten in Jerusalem, unkosher, unclean, and that's why we don't find that, those kind of bones. But we do find other animals, fish bones, deer, lamb, etc. While we walk on these 2,000-year-old flagstones, Tamar, I want you to note something. Can you see there are flagstones that are missing?
Yes.
And we have it 1, 2, 3. And as we go up, we can see roughly 4 or 5 different areas where the huge 2,000-year-old flagstones covering the drainage system are actually missing. And while crawling through over here in 2004, all the way up 1,800 feet to the western wall, we found pieces of these flagstones inside, smashed pottery, and actually cooking pots that were in one piece.
Wow.
Hundreds of coins, a sword, a Roman sword with its leather cover.
A full sword?
You bet,
Wow.
you bet. And Professor Ronnie Reich knew immediately what that sword is all about. I'll tell you that a little bit later. But this, unfortunately, hides within it a very dramatic and sad story of the end of Jerusalem in the year 70 CE, 1,952 years ago, the destruction of the Second Temple. And who's counting, Tamar? We're counting. I'll tell you that a little bit later when we talk about the dramatic end of this road, the 2,000-year-old flagstones and promenade. And that'll also help us understand why these stones are in such good shape. So follow me behind the scenes to where it's off limit, and hopefully in a few years from now, it'll be open to the millions, to the multitudes coming to Jerusalem, walking the footsteps of our ancestors.
So people haven't been here yet?
Not yet.
Wow.
So don't look at the code, my dear.
I'm not looking.
It's a state
Don't look at the code,
secret.
guys.
Hold on.
It's really a state secret. We're going
Follow
in.
me behind the scenes.
Thank you.
So as we walk over here, remember we have the modern road above our heads and some houses. And look at these enormous steel bars we have over our heads. Quickly, the technique itself, in order to preventing a slight movement of 1 micron, I'll show you right above your head over here. You can see what the patent is. We drill in pipes that will be the supporters, the foundations of what we have above our heads, and then gradually dig very slowly. How slowly? I'm talking dental equipment.
Oh, wow.
A little shovel, very slowly, because you want to prevent any collapse over here. You can understand this, the outcome of a collapse over here. So things are done very, very delicately, very slowly to prevent any collapse.
So how long did it take to dig all of this?
It still does. Ever since 2004, gradually. And because it's so slowly, it takes a long time to reveal. It's a challenge that we are able to face only by working very carefully.
Okay.
So we'll continue up above over here. Follow me. What's your step? When I told you that this is the flag project of Israel Antiquities Authority, we have to understand that this is a phenomena which is also actually a game changer in Jerusalem. Because up until today, you can see that during all the festivals, all the feasts, the Chagim, Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot, hundreds of thousands come here to Jerusalem to commemorate those feasts and to come to Yerushalayim. It's interesting because when we say pilgrimage in English, what does it mean in Hebrew? The original word comes from Hebrew, aliyah laregel, the chag. So what is the aliyah laregel? The ascent to the feast, to the festival, to the temple. And you can actually see that we are literally walking up. We are ascending. Topographically, you're walking uphill, and that is the phenomena. But I'd like to also state another amazing idea. What does chag mean? Chag, mechoga, lachug, is to circle. What did people do in the Chag? They walked up, they ascended up to the temple, and they used to circle the temple 7 times. 7 times? Who else circled a city 3,200 years ago 7 times?
I think I know the answer. Joshua?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is amazing. That is amazing because Joshua, what did he want to do? He wanted to tear down the walls by circling the walls 7 times. The walls fell down. That's why in Ashkenazi weddings, you will always see the bride up until today circling the groom 7 times. Why is that? Because they want to break the walls, the barriers between them, and become one.
Wow.
So that is truly amazing. But that also reminds us something else. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is what? Hajj. Hajj.
Mecca.
In Mecca. And they go to Mecca and they circle the Kaaba, the rock. How many times?
7 times.
7 times. So that's pretty interesting. And here you can actually see the magnitude of the 2,000-year-old road. So if we stand over here, we are roughly, say, 30 meters, 90 feet from the pool. Look at this. Now, so many times, archaeologists or historians stood over here along with Israel Antiquities Authority archaeologists and asked, is this 2,000 years old? Look at them.
No, it's like brand new.
Brand new.
These are the original.
It is. That's a phenomenon. Why and how was it preserved? I promised you. I'll get there.
Okay.
But walking along this area, we will actually be able to see the incredible magnitude of the road itself. Tamar, welcome.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So you're walking here, and you have to imagine 2,000 years ago that above your head, what do you see?
I don't know.
The sky.
Because everything's open.
Open.
Right.
So throughout the years after the destruction of Jerusalem, a reminder, Rome takes over. The 10th Roman Legion settles here as a Roman garrison in Jerusalem, a new period of time covering the destruction. Then 250 years later, Constantine the Great, the Byzantines take over. After 200 years, the Muslims take over. And then the Crusaders take over.
So layer
and
after layer
Yes,
after
and that's
layer.
what we have above our heads. So if this is the 5th Avenue of Jerusalem, or you know what? Let's go to Europe now, the Champs-Élysées or the Ramblas in Barcelona. To your left and to your right, what do you see? The shops continue.
Right.
Okay? And that is incredible. So that's what you have to see. Now, underground penetrating radar scans that we took to the west and to the east show us that in different areas, it goes from 50 meters, it becomes narrow, and it was built according to the topography of Jerusalem, because we are in what we know as the Central Valley. Roads were always built in valleys. Ask me why?
Why?
Great question. Because no one would build a house in the heart of the valley. We have 800 millimeters of rainwater annually, and all the water would concentrate over here.
Right.
And that's why the road, or this area, the Central Valley, was clear from houses, and it became a default route to build a promenade. That's the rationale behind it. Covering over here with this plastic cover is actually something very interesting. This is a 2,000-year-old coin.
Can I look?
You can, sure. And that little coin tells us a huge story of Jerusalem and how it ended. On that coin, we have minted the words Shana Shtaim, year 2, on one side, and on the other side, to the freedom of Zion. And guess what language it's minted?
Hebrew.
Hebrew, ancient Hebrew. And that is a rebel coin from the 2nd year of the Great Revolt, which is 67 CE. The Great
70 CE was the destruction.
The destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman Empire. 3 years later, Masada, the last Jewish stronghold, falls, and the rest is history. So that little coin, we'll get back to it in just a bit, and it has to do a lot with the drainage system that we saw the flagstones missing above it, and that's the story of the destruction. I want to talk about the drama, the beauty, the joy in Jerusalem, because we read these events in the accounts. It's very difficult sitting at home, school, shul, and reading those words and actually being able to imagine what happened over here. So the accounts tell us that people were ecstatic. Why and how? Hey, people used to gather in the pool of Shiloh, gather together, unite, walk along with the temple, and celebrate the feasts. So you have the Levites, the Leviim, playing their instruments, singing, their drums, their trumpets. People are Wow.
Like a huge party.
Woodstock, if you'd like. Lehavdil, okay? But yes, that's what you would have had over here. And I can imagine that. I can actually walk on these 2,000-year-old flagstones saying to myself, this is insane. But, unfortunately, every good story also comes to an end. And the end of Jerusalem was a bad end and a very hard end. Very quickly, in a nutshell, what happened over here? So we have one voice, and one voice only, to tell us the story.
Josephus?
Yes, Toma. Well done.
My history degree paid off.
You bet. Josephus, Flavius Josephus, or in Hebrew, Yosef ben Matityahu, who writes his monumental book, The Jewish Wars Against the Romans. He writes about the events, and he's the only source telling us the what, the when, the who, the how. Incredible. Go back and read it. You'll love it. Very quickly, he tells us that the great revolt that began, the Jewish revolt against the Romans, that began in the year 66 CE, ended in Jerusalem after 4 years, 70. And after 6 months of siege, when people here in Jerusalem were starving to death, surrounded by 3 Roman legions, the 5th, the 10th, the 15th, and 60,000 soldiers, at the peak of their weakness, on the Hebrew day of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, they tear down the walls. A few weeks later, the 9th day of Av, Tisha B'Av, they burned the temple, and then he writes in his 8th book, or chapter 8, that the last Jewish rebels ran from the upper city, and if you go out from here, you'll see topographically, and archaeology will prove that the city expanded up to the hills of Mount Zion. He writes that the last Jewish soldiers ran to the lower city, city of David, and sought refuge in the drainage systems.
So right here.
In the drainage system.
Underneath.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And when the Romans heard that they were hiding over there, quote, they broke the tiles above their heads. 2,000 soldiers' corpses were taken out of these drainage systems. 1,000 suffocated. The other 1,000 found their death in different ways. And then he writes, and I want to summarize what he says, and they did not leave a stone upon a stone, and they burnt the entire lower city until the Shiloach pool, the pool of Siloam. Why is that amazing? Because many people throughout history used to think that he had this tendency to exaggerate. So in the city of David, when you find First Temple period areas, which we do, you walk along with a shovel in your left hand, a Bible in your right hand, and it correlates.
Incredible.
But 500 years later, Second Temple period, which are after the days of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, you walk with a shovel in your left hand, Josephus in your right hand, and guess what? The thought or the theory that Josephus had this tendency to exaggerate is probably not true. Why? Because we find evidence of what he writes. Look at the shops over here. So this is the eastern edge of the pilgrimage road, and you can see this flagstone over here, which is actually the pavement. The road over here is roughly 25 meters, 70 feet wide. What would you have here 2,000 years ago? The shop. And the shop owner, where would he and his family live?
Probably close by.
Close by and above. So imagine, just like today, you walk in central arteries worldwide, you can actually see housing above the shops. Right. What do we find over here? The foundations of the second story where the shop owners lived were actually wooden beams. And the furniture was made out of what? Wood. So if Joseph, you bet. Okay. Right, you are. Ever since 2013, when we began this project, the Pilgrimage Road, after the pool, these flagstones we see over here, brand new, were revealed because of what? Because the wooden beams burned, everything collapsed into the shops and outside on the road. And that is what covered
all of this.
Yes,
wow.
And that is what preserved it. Why am I telling you this? Come with me. Over here, you can actually see where the diggers, the archaeologists, finished their work yesterday, and they'll continue in about an hour from now, or maybe tomorrow. They might have taken the day off today, Jerusalem Day.
Right.
This is important because this is how we find the road, the whole project. Can you see these man-made square stones? Look how they're 90 degrees over here. And right where we're standing, you can actually still see the chisel marks, meaning this is man-made. And you see it here, and you see it here, and you see it here, and it's everywhere, mixed with the rubble, with the dirt you see over here.
Are these stones that fell?
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
imagine these stones above your heads, the house above the shop, wooden beams are burnt, everything collapses, and that is how we find the entire pilgrimage road every day, day by day, meter by meter, centimeter by centimeter, holding delicate dental equipment, digging over here. And you know what the phenomena is? He didn't exaggerate, Josephus. We know that because when we sift through the dirt found over here, we find thousands of pieces of pottery that were smashed into small
It was
pieces.
probably like an earthquake.
Well, yes, but when earthquake, you know if it's an earthquake only if all the stones are fallen to the same direction, like pillars. We see it in Beit Shean. This was not an
But
earthquake.
it probably felt like an earthquake for the people
For
here.
sure,
Yeah.
it was a war, and it was a world war because that marked the end. And when we look live in front of your face, very delicately, very slowly,
Oh, wow.
we find dramatic findings, artifacts. Do you see this? Tamar, this is ash.
No.
This is 2,000, to be accurate, 1,952-year-old ash. This is carbon dated, coin dated, and that takes us back to the coin, because that coin you saw over there is a rebel coin. It says on it, Shana Shtaim, Shana Bet, year 2 to the rebellion, to the Great Revolt, and the coins we find buried under the rubble, on the flagstones. It's like time paused, because this is the end. And the drama over here is our story. This ash I just put on my hand over here, taken out from the original rubble, destruction of Jerusalem, 70 CE, almost 2,000 years ago, is a reminder of what happened over here. And why is that so excited? Because 2,000 years ago, from this point over here, where it all ended, we, the Jewish people, were thrown out of Judea, and we were scattered in all corners of the world, Africa, Asia, Europe, later on America. For 2,000 years, we never forgot Jerusalem. Direction of prayer, Jerusalem. We finish the Haggadah on Pesach next year in Jerusalem, L'Shana Haba b'Yerushalayim. We get married, we sanctify our marriage. What do? We break, we smash the glass, commemorating what? The destruction of Jerusalem. And what do we say? אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני, תדבק לשוני לחכי. If I forget thy Jerusalem, may I forget my right hand. Tamar, we never forgot Jerusalem. And that's why Jerusalem never forgot us. And this is a silent echo of what happened over here, which is so deeply embedded in our DNA, in our identity. For us, Jerusalem is not a narrative, it's not a story. It is essence of our being, essence of our coming home, and standing here commemorating 55 years, reuniting Jerusalem, the Jerusalem Day, for me, as a human being, as a Jew, as an Israeli, there's nothing more exciting for me to be with you today and to show this to the world. Welcome back to Yerushalayim, the city of David, where it all began, unfortunately where it all ended, but
Where it continues.
yes.
Wow.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was incredible. And on behalf of all of us, happy Jerusalem Day from the past, present, and future of the Jewish people. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.